folks, we'll get started in just a few.
I'm just gonna get up real quick. I will be right back.
Cool.
Are you guys okay with the Instagram story? Great. Thanks.
Wait, you took it right then?
Yes. Do you want me to do another one?
No, it's fine. I just don't think it clicked. All right. Hey, everybody, we'll get started soon. We're waiting on a panelist, I believe. And I'll just go ahead and take this time to say that if you are here as an audience member, thank you so much. There is a Q&A feature that's at the bottom of your screen. So it's a little bit different from a chat. You can ask questions anonymously, which is nice. There also may be a question that you want answered off the air. So you're welcome to do that too. So as you have questions, I think we'll probably have the conversation going and then do kind of questions sprinkled in or after we do intros and things like that. So if you've got questions, throw them at them.
Amber is on her way. She's got a baby who refuses to let her participate in the discussion this evening, but she said she's coming.
Civil disobedience.
Those babies.
And I can move her over once she's here.
Okay.
Oh, you have your precincts on there. You're fancy, Kate and Jasmine.
I copy Jasmine.
Good. So good.
I do that.
And just zoom a lot. 3 dots up by, if you hover over your own picture, and then 3 dots. And you can click on them and hit rename. It's the 3rd one down on my computer, but I know everyone's on like different devices.
Thinking of everything. I've convinced myself that I don't know how to spell precinct because I've written it several times. It's one of those words that you write it and then you're like, that's not right.
Committee.
I actually did just spell it off the log.
Committee.
Precinct. Yeah, the 2 M's and the 2 T's in committee just get me.
Ooh, okay.
I fix it.
Jan, do you think Amber would mind if we started with introductions and then she hopped in?
I don't think so. I think she'd be.
Okay. Well, welcome everybody. Thank you everybody for attending. And we are doing our 3rd Civic Engagement 101 series. And it's co-sponsored by Lawrence Public Library and League of Women Voters, Lawrence Douglas County. And we are super happy to have everybody here, all the presenters and audience members. So this time we are going to be talking about the wonderful Write Us In campaign. And it is as I say, it's swept the county for the recent primary election in 2020. And I will be welcoming a lot of the Write Us In folks, and they're here to talk about kind of how the campaign went, what it's like to do kind of grassroots organizing, what kind of things you can do on a very local level to interact with your neighbors and interact politically. any kind of challenges and things that they've faced, advice for any future organizers, and then also how you can get involved with your own precinct committee person, which maybe they are here today, which would be wonderful. But if not, they're always looking for assistance with kind of voter registration and getting the word out and voter engagement. So all of you audience members are welcome to help make a difference in your neighborhood. So we can get started. Would love for y'all to introduce yourself, name, pronouns, kind of what you do, either, you know, for work or for fun or whatever, and then what precinct you're in, and if you feel like describing like the area, so people kind of have an idea of where they are. And I will go. We'll go in order. Jan, do you want to go first?
Sure thing. I'm Jennifer Bonilla-Scotten, she, her pronouns. I'm precinct 77. See, I'm a member of the Apache tribe of Oklahoma, been a Lorenz, Kansas resident for a while. I went to Cordley, Central, LHS, went to Haskell Indian Nations University. That's where I got my elementary education degree, and then went to pursue a degree in library information science. I'm currently the librarian at Billy Mills Middle School. So I'm in public education, and more recently engaged in our civic duties and in our government. So thank you for having us tonight.
Thank you. All right, Mick, do you want to go?
Yes. Hi, I'm Mikaila Morgan. I use she, her pronouns, and my precinct is 11. I have been in autism para at Billy Mills for the past 2 years. And then I also work with a couple of agencies where I do like in-home care for children. And then I'm also a dance teacher at Point B Dance, which is a local company, and I teach dance there as well. So that's what I do normally, but obviously the pandemic has kind of made most of those things impossible. So right now I'm more focused on this. Yeah, I think it was really exciting to get involved with a group of like-minded people and find a way to get involved in the community. So I think I've been more so focusing on that recently.
Thank you. Jasmine?
Hey, I'm Jasmine Bates, she and they pronouns. My precinct is 26, which is over by the university. It's from like 17th to 19th or 16th to 19th, and then Mass to Naismith. So if you live in an apartment in that area, you're in my precinct. And as far as who I am, I'm new to town. I think the newest of all the people who volunteered for the Precinct Write Us In campaign. I've lived here since 2018. I worked at the Mad Greek for a good amount of time as a waitress, and now I'm doing an AmeriCorps service here at the United Way. So I talk to Kate G a lot at work. Lots of emails back and forth. Oh, and I also want to throw out that both Jennifer and I are on the executive committee of the Democrats. So Jennifer is our lovely Sergeant of Arms, and I am the secretary. So we both have a voting capacity in the County Democrats on that level. And I'm also a member of Democratic Socialists of America, the local chapter. Got to throw them out there.
Thank you. Kate?
Hi, everyone. I'm Kate, and I use she, her pronouns. You may hear an 18-month-old heckler in the background, and I apologize if that's coming through, but I think they're going to calm down shortly. And I am in Precinct 15, which is part of the Sunset Hills neighborhood. I live within walking distance of Leeway Franks and the Merc and Todd's Tropical Snow and all sorts of delights. I am from Lorenz. I went to Cordley and Central and LHS. I picked up Jennifer and Erin along the way as friends. And then actually I have known Mikaila through dance classes. So that's the web of Write Us In connections. So Jasmine is my official Write Us In best friend. And I work at KU during the day. And I'm super excited to get more involved in politics at the local level, where I feel like you can affect a lot of change. And it's been awesome to have this group of people to learn with and take on this work with.
Thank you. I wanted to welcome Amber, and Erin, we'll have you do your bio, and then Amber, we're just kind of doing introductions, who you are, what you do, and what precinct you're in. Erin?
I'm Erin Brown. I'm an author and activist, also from Lorenz. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm precinct 40, which is East Lorenz in the New York Street area. I'm walking distance to New York Elementary School. What else am I supposed to say? People probably also know me from being a waitress at Lady Bird Diner. Being self-employed means that you have a lot of side hustles. So I've done a variety of things. Currently, I'm an unemployed waitress working on a book.
Thank you. Amber, welcome. Do you want to do a little intro?
I know that move.
Did you say Amber?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry. My
Okay.
baby is crying and she won't stop. So I had to
Mine
go
too.
outside. Okay, so we're doing our intros.
Yeah,
I'm Amber. Okay, I'm Amber Jaimez. I'm precinct 18. And how I started getting involved in all this was Jennifer had reached out to a group of our girlfriends, and I just wanted to do something so I didn't have to see Trump take office again, basically. What other information did you need? Sorry.
Oh, just anything about you, like what you do or what you like, or.
I work at Berry Global. I participate in the American Pool Association in Lawrence, Northeast Kansas division, and I play kickball.
Awesome. For the Call Valley Kickball League?
Yes, and then City League too.
Sweet. Cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, welcome everybody. Thank you again so much. I was wanting to kind of get the conversation going, and was wondering if Jennifer, if you would mind kind of talking, actually the kind of founding members, how the Write Us In campaign got started, and what that journey's been like.
All right. So I think it started maybe how a lot of things started in this time, right? Like people were making sourdough bread for a while, and they were just, there was unrest and uncertainty and fear, and people turned to different things. And in that process, I was tired of feeling for a long time like there wasn't, anything that I could do, besides baking bread and which is great. But and I reached out to the women in my family. I have a very strong, mighty matriarchs in my family, and we frequently, because we couldn't gather, a lot of Zoom meetings, a lot of group texts, and initially it just started with what can we do? What can we do for our community? There was a lot of disconnect, especially for us. We felt like in our Indigenous community, because Haskell was closed and not looking like it was going to reopen. And that is kind of been a central focus point, right, for the Indigenous community in Lawrence. It's one of the kind of beacons, right, for that people gather. So just looking in different ways that we could reach out to our community and give back and to help, but also to be involved and engaged, because the more that I learned about how things work, the more that I realized that you can make a lot of impact locally. There's a lot of things that you can do, and in various ways. And a lot of times it's the same people and the same kind of people that are represented in our local government, on our boards, any kind of committees, you name it, that they look the same. They are not necessarily representatives of the community as a whole. And so we got together and we initially just started just a Facebook group where we wanted to get the Indigenous people just about, into voting, right? The district attorney position was coming up, and the sheriff, and there were all of these things that were coming up that we hadn't been really plugged into before, and really wanted to get that information and that knowledge out to our community. It started there, and we met with a woman from Women for Kansas Northeast. Her name is Ty Edwards. And I think Ty is probably the most like important part of this story, because a lot of times you'll meet people and they'll say, you should do this, you should run for office, why don't you do this, girl, you should do this, and then that's it, you know, right? It's like a lot of like hype, 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 but then I'm gonna like leave you alone. And she like hyped us up. She was like, have you ever heard of this position? Most people don't know about it, but it's kind of a big deal. And you know, if something happens, like if there's a death or a retirement, like you just vote and you pick these positions in the city. And I just was in pure disbelief that one, and I love to learn something, you know, I'm a librarian, so like learning stuff is like my jam, but also I would ask other people, have you ever heard about this? And it would be not on their radar, and people who I considered to be pretty plugged in. But Ty didn't just, you know, hype it up to where like, you should do this, you should do this. She hyped it up. She sent me an email. There were all kinds of hyperlinks. She gave me somebody to talk to. And I think that is one of the connections that I can't reiterate enough, of just, if you have the capacity and you have the energy to do that for people, if you see something in people, and whether it's community leadership or something that you see in them, and you have the energy and the resources to say, okay, you should do this, and this is exactly how, because it was a call this person, then do this, and then you know you got to do this and this, and that's exactly what we did. And it started with, we have a group chat, you know, it's myself and Kate and Erin and Amber, and you know, on any day, just to be a fly on the wall in that group chat. I mean, it's the gamut of things that we talk about, right? But one day I was like, hey, I have an idea. How about, what would y'all think about just running for this public office? Yeah, you good? We're gonna do this? Okay. And just kind of assuming that, like any other thing that I was able to convince them to do since, you know, second or, you know, seventh grade, that they would do it. And luckily we took the time and did do more research, and felt like it was an investment that we could make in our community, because, and I won't share necessarily their whys, but I feel like it hit at the right moment, that opportunity of you're feeling like you can't do anything, but here is a way, albeit, you know, some people consider it small, but what's interesting is that just since we've been precinct committee people, both the Republican and the Democratic precinct committee people have wielded that power of putting somebody in office with their precinct committee people. First, it was with the sheriff, right? And then we just did it with the treasurer. So that is definitely, I think, speaks to, you know, albeit a small position, there is something there. So I'll let somebody else add to it.
I was just laughing laughing at our group chat, going from like, oh, I just saw so-and-so. Do they still have a crush on Erin, or do they still like hang out with this person? To say the group chat being like, who knows a notary? We've got to get these forms.
Well, and it's not, for me, the story begins in 1996-ish, when Jan decided that our group of friends was going to become the cheerleaders. And so we just did. And now looking back at it, I don't even know if I wanted to be a cheerleader. I'm glad that I had that experience, but like, we'll literally just do anything that Jan says to do. And not just anybody, but Jan specifically, because she always has great ideas, and she's like so good at hyping people and making sure people feel included and valued. And so it was just, Jan said, we're doing this, so obviously we're doing this. And it started out as like something that was like fun and exciting, and what on earth are we getting into, and turned into a coalition of sorts that has made all of the work that has come since, and sort of becoming a part of the Kansas Democrats, and all of the things that we've had to do has been invaluable. Just feeling comfortable doing those things with a group of people that I share values with, and that I know like have my back. I don't know, even with this level of position, if I would have felt comfortable going for it without people I trust with me.
So I think some of the fun as well came because Jennifer found out about the positions like 2 days after the filing deadline, so we didn't have a chance to actually get on the ballot. And that's how the Write Us In kind of campaign was born, because we knew we needed to get 5 votes. And as more people kind of entered our coalition through friends or even just seeing us post about running ourselves on social media, we would really get activated to like, okay, we've got to get Amber's 5 votes, we've got to get Jasmine's 5 votes, we've got to get Nick's 5 votes. And so we had a spreadsheet. We were going through like, who do you know in everyone's precinct, contacting them. And so then it kind of resonated with people on social media and was shared and followed by a lot of folks. So I think that was almost a hidden blessing to not actually be on the ballot and to be able to do this writing campaign, which then resulted in people asking us all sorts of other election questions, which maybe we'll get to a little bit later. But almost the fact that we were going for it in that writing capacity got people more excited about the position. Sometimes I have to say it's a small position. But it was cool to see people get excited about specifically the precinct committee person position.
So could anybody give like a synopsis of kind of what the breakdown of the position is and how it's structured, like on the ballot, if anybody's like not noticed that it was on the ballot before, like me before y'all? So
I can do that. So the breakdown of how it shows up on the ballot is the language right now is not something we're happy with because it's committee man and committee woman. You're required to have a man and a woman in each precinct, which we're currently violating as we have some non-binary members. So we're working to get that language changed, and Erin Brown has been spearheading that effort. But that's how it will show up. It'll be low down on the ballot, I think like the last thing. If the line is blank, if there's no name, that means that nobody is filling that seat and nobody is running for it, which was the case in my precinct, and I think, well, all of ours, because we were write-ins. These seats often sit empty. And then as far as like what the position is, I'll come at this from a voter angle. So basically, we are your point of contact in your neighborhood. We have the ear of the Democratic Party, who makes decisions about how we run, get out the vote efforts every election cycle. And we have a voting capacity on the central committee of the Democratic Party that there's some things with like, we elect delegates that go to this level, that go to that level, that go to that level, that I still get tripped up about in my head. But ultimately, like the part that's important to all of us, I feel confident saying, is that we have access to voter records, and we can use that to help you make sure that your registration is up to date, make sure that your address is correct, make sure that you are in fact registered, make sure that your advanced ballot request went through, all of those great things. And we can also help you with any of those things. If you have trouble, we can deliver your ballot to a ballot box for you. If you're not comfortable leaving your house during COVID, we know where to look for all this information, because election information can be hard to find. There's like the Douglas County website, and I think they've tried to make it accessible, but it's still a county website, and there's like 2 different election hub pages and all these links, and it's like, just text your precinct committee person and they will tell you what you need to know. Yeah, I hope that breaks it down.
absolutely, yeah. And how do you recommend getting a hold of your precinct committee person, like if they're not here today?
So I'll jump in. I guess my recommendation, because I don't think everyone's precinct committee person's contact info is listed on the web, but if you do go to either any of the Write Us In social medias, you can message us and we will find their information for you, or you can go to the Douglas County Dems website and look at our executive board, and my Google Voice number and my email are on there. And I'm happy to field all those requests. If you email me, I will get back to you. I only check my personal email like twice a day, so don't expect like an immediate response, but I will get back to you within like a day or 2 with your precinct committee people's info. And then the other thing I want to say is, if you do want to volunteer and your precinct has tons of volunteers, or you don't have a committee person, or they're not very active, or they're not doing the kind of volunteering that you want, just reach out to us and we will find something for you to do. There are orphan precincts without precinct committee people. Some of us don't have volunteers in our precincts and we need that help too. And ultimately getting out voters anywhere in Douglas County is beneficial, not just in your neighborhood.
I was going to say, if you don't have a precinct committee person, Mikaila will text you to say hi and ask how you're doing. We'll give everyone to Mikaila who doesn't have a precinct person.
I wanted to say too, one of the things that was fun about doing the Write Us In campaign and the spreadsheets that we had at the time is that most of what we were doing was just finding people that we knew. I know that Jennifer has done some voter to voter texting that is similar, but like if you volunteer, you could just volunteer to look through someone's spreadsheet and see if there's anyone you know, and then text your friends for us, which is great. So it doesn't have to be like a huge time commitment, and it doesn't even have to be with strangers, especially in a community like Lorenz. It's amazing how much can get done just reaching out to people that you know.
I want to hop on to what Erin said to just say, like, we can also hook you up with, because we're so plugged in to voter outreach, we know all kinds of different, you can like sign up to mail postcards to people you know or people you don't know. You can adopt a state, or there's websites, there's a cool voter to voter program that is specific to Kansas. A nonprofit runs it, and we can plug you into that, and then you can just search people you know and it'll show you if they're registered to vote, when the last time they voted was, and give you some prompts, and then you can just text and call your buddies. It's super low key.
I've loved seeing all of the different ways that people have been getting involved, especially if you are working from home, or you are staying at home with your family. There's just a lot. It seems like there's a lot more ways to get involved this election cycle. Could anybody talk about how COVID has changed, the world of meetings and the world of politics and local politics, and how maybe having video meetings and things like that and Zoom calls instead of in-person meetings, how that has changed your involvement with politics?
I was going to say, I think we've talked about this, but I think for a lot of us, it made it a little bit easier to like ease ourselves into it. To be in a meeting, at least for me personally, I think to be in a meeting on a computer where everyone can't necessarily see you was actually made it a little bit less intimidating, I think, for us. I don't want to speak for everyone, but I think it's interesting. I don't know what this experience would have been like if we had been going to like in-person meetings, just because I haven't experienced that yet. And I think a lot of us were new to that, but yeah, I think overall it maybe made it a little bit more accessible for us.
I've been on time to all my meetings. I would say that's probably the big difference for me personally, is that it's like, what, show up? I'll be there. You betcha. I think, just to reiterate, the very first time that we met as like a group, it's tons of people, and it's what you would expect really any party to look like. It was older white men predominantly, just knowing, like, whether it's like through the group chat or the Zoom, like, all right, you're here, is everybody here, and showing up for one another that way. But also to remind you, like, your organizing doesn't have to necessarily, your pinnacle doesn't have to be precinct committee person, right? It doesn't have to be with any, necessarily with any party affiliation. Your organizing can look very much like this, though, just with the people that you care about and the people that you love, and just saying, this is what's on my heart, this is for my community. And I mean, there's a lot to be done, even in Lawrence, Kansas. There is a lot that can be worked on and improved, and there are many voices that can be amplified, and the mic can be passed in so many different instances. So I know that we're talking about this particular, but I think one of the things that I think makes this group so amazing is that all of us are plugged into something different in the community, some aspect of it, whether it's, other organizations I love. Amber was like, wants to play off modest about her. She's like a kickball legend, but also just the fact that she gets people involved and moving, and fitness is like a lifelong family effort for her. Like, it's those types of things where we need to understand that the work is also very personal, and the work is also not necessarily on any particular party line, and not to feel like that's the end all and be all, right? There are so many ways that you can get involved and be involved.
And kind of jumping off of a little bit of what a couple of people have talked about, when I started getting involved in the community, it was more through climate and racial justice activism. And I had the same experience of seeing a lot of, the same faces at city commission meetings or, in the environmental group, which is amazing. And it's great to see people who are so dedicated. But for a while, I was like, there is no one my age, like mid-30s with kids. And I was thinking, why? And then I'm realizing that there are so many barriers to that, day jobs, and you've seen several of us on this call have babies or kids running around, or just, new relationship or moving, or all of these things that are barriers can be to getting involved. Some of it is just the encouragement. Some of it is like what Jennifer was talking about someone saying, I think you could do this for these reasons. This is what you could bring, and here's how I will help you. And so I think that the virtual meetings has also been really helpful for that. I think the flip side is that getting involved in an organization. So we have our Write Us In group, but now we are in the county party, Democratic Party. And so trying to get the lay of the land in any new organization can be a little bit overwhelming and a little challenging. And so I think the virtual side has some drawbacks in that aspect of just, having a harder time kind of just getting a feel for things, and it's only one person speaking at a time, or if the meeting, if it has to be in a webinar format to start or something like that, all of those can make things a little bit difficult to feel like connected and like you really understand what's going on. So I would love for not just parties, but other organizations to think about how to use the virtual tools to make things more accessible, and how to do that proactively rather than like reactively to a situation where things have to go online. Really look into the possibilities of what the technology can do to make things go more on the inclusive, accessible end, and less on the kind of barrier end of things, if that makes any sense.
To that end, Kate usually runs our Write Us In committee meetings, and I have never felt more welcome at a meeting, besides that she's my friend, but she opens with this, like, I want to welcome you. If you're feeling like this, I want to welcome you. It just feels like a consensual professional hug. And I just feel like everyone should reach out to Kate to learn how to welcome people to a meeting.
And I will say, to give a shout out, a lot of that is organizing skill that I learned from Sunrise Movement, from national trainings there. So, these things are partially how my nature is to want to be welcoming, but a lot of these things are skills that you learn. And it's amazing that there's so many avenues for learning things like that.
Does anybody from the audience have any Q&A or have any questions that we can answer? You can put it in the Q&A little feature there. Or if you have any trouble with that, feel free to put it in chat. And while we're waiting for that, what other things would you like to touch on, either about Write Us In campaign or advice for organizing, or any other thoughts and feels y'all have?
I can speak. Mikaila has not talked very much, I will say, though. I'd love to hear some more thoughts out of Mick. Yeah, but I would say that as a group, I imagine the one thing we want you to take out of this is that you can do what we're doing. I have no background in government or politics, or I didn't know this position existed. I've been to like 2 city commission meetings via Zoom. Like, I'm not historically civically engaged. I'm 24. I don't know what I'm doing with my life. And I'm able to show up and do this, and you're allowed to just wing it in these spaces. You do not have to be an expert. You do not have to have had some lifelong career and be retired in order to be in party politics. And I think it's important that younger people and that working people start to get involved. If we do want our parties to represent us, and we want candidates put forward that are going to represent us effectively and advocate for us. The other thing I wanted to say is we want you to take away that, like, we're here for you. We did not get elected to like stroke our own egos. That's not why we did this. We want you to call us. We want you to need things from us. We want to help you get out and vote or get civically engaged in other ways. I'm happy to connect you to other organizations you're interested in. We have this large coalition of folks that have different connections to different groups, and we can help plug you into those groups wherever you feel passionate. I'm done.
Hello. So Jasmine's like, oh God, she's speaking. But no, I think Jasmine kind of read my mind though, just because, well, I wanted to say, like, I know we keep like stressing the community aspect, but like literally, like, it's everything. Like, I remember Jennifer texted me and she was like, so do you want to run for public office? And I was like, absolutely not. That's not something I'm doing. I was having like major imposter syndrome about it. And then I saw this group of people whom I love and who I look up to doing this. And I was like, okay, I can do this because I have a group of people that I'm doing it with. And so I texted her and I was like, okay, I'll do it. And so I think that like speaks numbers to how much community can help people. And I think that's why it grew so much, because people were like, oh my gosh, these are just like regular people. Like, these are just people in my community and they're doing this, and people just kept joining. And it was like actually really amazing how it happened. But I think the other thing I wanted to say is like how much, like, yes, this is about voting and getting civically engaged, but I think so much that we've talked about within our group is like, this isn't just about voting. This is about like community care. And this is about like making things accessible for people. And this is making sure that people have access to everything that they need, not just voting related, and getting to know your neighbors and getting to know your community. And so I think that that's so much of the appeal of this to me. Not that I don't care about voting, because voting is great, but I think that's only one part of it. So yeah, and I think also what Jasmine said is being a part of this has helped me be so much more plugged in with the community in general, because I've gained these, like, I don't know how many of us there are, like 20 or something, like it's a huge group of us. And so every single person is involved with something. And so I just gain like all these new connections. And I feel like I know so much more about what's going on in the community now because of this. So yeah, that's my thoughts.
Those are wonderful thoughts.
I did want to say something. And I might have missed this, or someone might have already said this. I don't think they have, but right now, like, I'm texting and calling people in my community, and so like if anybody is in my precinct or just wants to volunteer, they can go to the Write Us In Facebook page and find their person and reach out to them if they're not interested in being too involved but want to kind of help. That would be very helpful.
That's a really good point. Yeah. I've got a couple of questions, and one of those kind of leads into that. What plans do you have for engaging younger people, i.e. those who are not old enough to vote but will be?
I can start the ball rolling on that. So I, again, working with Sunrise Movement, a lot of the people who are involved with that are not of voting age, but there are people who are phone banking, text banking, leading these voter registration and voter outreach efforts, who are 14, 15, 16 in high school. So I think some of those organizational skills that I was talking about, learning, and it's not just fundraising, but there are other organizations as well. I'm sure that span the gamut of kind of groups and affiliations that want to help out and want to give some training to these young leaders in our community. So, when they are of voting age or even before, they can hit the ground running. I also know that there are issues that are near and dear to my heart that young people are especially persuasive on, and research shows that if your children, grandchildren, nieces, nephews tell you they're concerned about certain things, people listen to that more so than pundits or journalists or other grown-ups who are yelling at them about things. So in terms of how best to engage younger people, I think there are lots of ways to do that through technology, through social media, through just meeting students in different schools and asking them to talk to their friends, through the library. The library has a lot of great programs. So yeah, I think the first step is just knowing that people who are not of voting age are still smart and engaged and very passionate, and that they will live with the consequences of what we do now longer than anyone else will. So to not patronize and to really take that seriously. It's important to me to think about, like, I'm here because of the people who came before me, and I want to leave what I can for the people who are coming after me.
It's a really great question. And I think in terms of personally, like there are 4 kids in this house, only 1 are just not able to vote, and they're all going to work and be engaged. But I think as a community, I think it's a great question, and we need to engage our young people because they are feeling the same things that we're feeling about, the climate, the environment, social justice. And I think maybe there's a really good chance that we would have that in common, that I didn't think, that I could do anything, and just sharing that story with them, right? And letting them know, because there are a lot of things that young people can do. And I have been pleasantly surprised and learning just in our own party. When I was being onboarded by some of the, there are a lot of young people who cannot vote, but they are text banking on the weekends, and they are delivering signs, and I believe the League of Women Voters has young people as well who are already plugged in. But I think even just giving not responsibility so much, but giving that those ideas to an entire community of young people, that there are things that you could do. So that's a great question. I think I'm going to sit with that too, just specifically how can we. And I remember specifically for civic engagement, we used to have like that kids voting, which I don't even know. I haven't heard of even like whispers of that in
I think it's still happening.
I think it's still happening. I don't know that I remember. I know we did at Billy Mills, we did the election last time, but in terms of, and it's not something you have to, I think people also don't understand that you can teach about that. I mean, the teachers are well within, you can teach about that. The census is also something that we can be engaging our young people in, and just making sure that they are plugged in. So yeah, that's a great question.
There's a high school student on the Sustainability Advisory Board. I'm just throwing that in. There's a high school student on the county's Sustainability Advisory Board, so you can do that.
This is an organization based, but at my house, my daughter has been really upset that she can't vote. And apparently that information was missing, because when we went to caucus for Bernie years ago, she was prepared to caucus and discovered upon arrival that she couldn't, and was irate. This affects me too. So she's very interested in politics, and also very adamant about how people speak to her, and that her experience matters and her opinion matters, and things that people do impact her. And I have a personal platform, which is how I sell my books and stuff. And she used to be more a part of that until she got older and that wasn't comfortable for her. But in this local election cycle, she was super engaged. I was almost going to miss some of the forums, and she's like, BIPOC forum is tonight. Like, she was just on it. And then she dictated to me a little statement about who she was voting for. And I know that it swayed some voters. And I also got a lot of messages from folks that are like, I'm a little bit like, I'm feeling a way about this 12-year-old who is so much more engaged and so much more informed than me, but it kind of lit a fire under people. And so if and when you do have people who are not of voting age that have big, important feelings about that, I think whenever that comes up, just really honoring that and finding a way to give that space that's not like, cute, talk to us when you're 18, but like, this is really meaningful. How can I share that perspective with more people? Or what would you like to do with this perspective? How can we get you plugged in, even if that's not voting?
I like that terminology, big important feelings, because I feel like that can be applied to anybody for anything, right? And I think that we don't understand, or I didn't understand how relatively accessible, if I have a situation or a concern with, city government, how I could put that concern to them, whether it's through an email or public commentary and things like that, that I would not have really plugged into before March, right? I would not have known that that was a thing that I can do. And I think also empowering young people to do the same. You have these feelings, this is how you get a hold of the school board. This is how you get a hold of city commission. I think that would also really help in letting them see that there are people who will listen to you, and that's their job to listen to you.
On that note, and not to, maybe we need to schedule this for another Monday night conversation, but I think that political parties and candidates also have a responsibility toward the young voters. I hear a lot of people say, why don't young people vote as much? Or why don't we have voters of X group or Y group? And I want to respond, like, do you want those votes? Do you do anything to, care about those votes? Even people who can't vote, do you want them to engage with your party? So when they're of voting age, they want to vote for you. And, a lot of this speaks to who has the power, who has the money. We know that that's a huge part of politics. Who has the lobbyists. There's no young person lobby, at least in Kansas, that I'm aware of. So, that if you want those votes and you want people to be engaged, there is some responsibility that political parties and candidates bear to be open and talk about issues that affect younger people, or any group that is not, that is not participating in the numbers that we want them to for full civic participation.
Question, so I will make this fast, but I want to tack on that, write us in. We kind of started as a campaign, but we intend to continue as like an organization of, I would say, progressive folks within the Democratic Party. So I think one of the important things we can do is just be here. I haven't had young people reach out to me, but if someone did and they wanted to do something, I would give them something to do and I would help them do it. And I think that's a big thing with younger folks. The other thing I want to throw in, if the asker has a young person in their life, I've heard of, there's a national program, and I will look up what it is and I can email it to Kate G if you are interested, where you can sign up when you're under 18 to get like a cute little invitation to register to vote on your 18th birthday. And it has all the info that you need to get started and do that. And it's super encouraging, and you can help your friends register to vote when they turn 18. And I think that's just like, I just love it.
That is so cool. I love that. So we have another question. Does one need to be registered a Democrat or whatever party to be a precinct committee person, or is it okay to be an unaffiliated voter?
The answer to this, it's like a technical, I think yes, for Democratic Party you have to be a registered Democrat. For Republican you have to be a registered Republican. I know that you can still vote in a Democratic primary anyways. I imagine Republican as well if you're unaffiliated. I I'm trying to think of any other nuances to answering that question. I would encourage folks to register with a party if they feel comfortable, because it does give you more power under our current system for doing things like becoming a precinct committee person. It currently is not like a bipartisan position though. So all of us here are with the Democratic Party.
All right. Well, thank you so much. Is there anything, what else have we not touched on, have I not asked about that you wanted to kind of make sure everybody heard before we leave?
If this just really seems like a group of folks that you can't wait to get involved with, there is still the option to become a precinct committee person. I would imagine that would be a lot to jump into right now, right, just like weeks before the election. So if you're like a real go-getter, maybe that. But if this position really speaks to you, we can appoint precinct committee people to orphaned precincts. And so if you were interested, if anybody was really stoked about this idea, we would love to have more precinct committee people. And also write us in. While it started with like a small group of folks that went to middle school together, a lot of us don't know one another or have like, you know, 1 or 2 degrees of connection. I've never met Jasmine in person, and I see them all the time on Zoom meetings. So,
Stranger from Instagram. I just.
Yeah, so it's not like a special club. There's no qualifications to join. So if you want to volunteer with us, or you want to work with us, or you're any way that we can help you like feel more involved in the political process and want to be involved with us. We have people who were not even going for a precinct committee person position that were helping us with the campaign. We had like official campaign volunteer. There's all kinds of ways to be involved, but Write Us In is not an exclusive group. We would love to have more people who resonate with what we are trying to do. And also precinct committee people, there are still lots of, we call them orphan precincts, and we would love to have more people in those positions as well.
Thank you. And Seal King from League of Women Voters has pointed out that a voter has to be affiliated with a party in order to vote in the Kansas primary elections in even number years, but that you can affiliate just before voting in the primary. So next time there's a primary that comes up, if you're unaffiliated, just keep that in mind that you do have to, but you're able to kind of right beforehand.
So I thank you for that clarification. Yes, it just, if you are feeling passionate about a candidate in a primary or primary race and you are unaffiliated, don't let it stop you from voting, was what I was attempting to get across there.
So someone has asked, if we know someone who might be interested, who should we direct them to contact?
Anne, or any of us.
Any Write Us In social media. We're on Facebook and Instagram, Write Us In LFK. You can direct message us there.
Jasmine puts the links and the different profile usernames in the chat, so you're welcome to go there. If you got here to this event from the Facebook event, Write Us In is tagged as a co-host, so you can always go there as well. If you ever have any questions about any of our presentations, you can also reach out to the library or League of Women Voters, and we are thrilled to connect you with any and all information. Well, we can see if there's any other questions that want to come in, or if there's anything else that y'all want to cover, any other parting words before we go.
I want to draw attention to Jennifer's Native Vote effort, because that was part of how this got started from my understanding. So would you feel okay talking about that for a minute, Jennifer?
Yeah, we created a Facebook group just to inform the Indigenous community here in Lawrence, and we had tried to, I think early on there was actually like a national organization and you could apply to be the person for your state. So I did that and waited, and I like jumped into every like DM of this organization that I could find, and like just cyber stalked people to the point where I'm like, hey, is this a thing? Is this not a thing? And it didn't hear back. And so we just said, okay, well, we're just going to go for it and, apologize if we are, misrepresenting. But it is nonpartisan, and it was just for us to get the information out to our local Indigenous community about especially the efforts coming up to the primaries. And what's been awesome to see is that now nationally it's sort of revamped itself, and a really great organization, Illuminatives, has taken it on. So now it's Natives Vote. You should check them out. Illuminatives and both the Natives Vote initiatives nationally are also great. And that's where we get a lot of our resources now from. But very, very, very grassroots. I mean, just 3 or 4 people just saying, we want to provide the information that we wouldn't have had otherwise. And yeah, thank you. Thank you for that.
All right. Well, thank you all so very much. This has been wonderful. I love listening to all of you speak and interact. And if anybody has any other follow-up questions after this, you're welcome to put them on the Facebook event, or contact me at the library or Denise at League of Women Voters. Hit up Write Us In campaign on every single social media and every single website ever, and like them all over the place. Hopefully they'll be on TikTok or whatever the next thing is. I think that TikTok may be a way to continue to reach future voters, do some dancing. And I hope you all have a wonderful night. We will be here again in a month to do another Civic Engagement 101 at the end of October, and have a wonderful evening. Thank you.
Thanks, Kate. Thanks, League of Women Voters. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Kate. Thank you, Denise. Thank you.